Caveman can face a charging mammoth and stay focused on the hunt. Caveman can climb a dangerous cliff and think only about the next handhold. Caveman can track prey through a storm without his mind wandering. But put Caveman in a quiet cave with nothing to do. Suddenly Caveman's own thoughts attack him worse than any predator. Trying to relax after a long day. Caveman lies down to rest, but 5 minutes later, his brain starts screaming about everything that could go wrong tomorrow, next week, next year. Here's the paradox. Caveman faces no real danger in this moment. His belly is full, his tribe is safe, his shelter is warm, but Caveman feels like disaster is always one step away. Why is that? Why can Caveman handle actual physical threats, but crumbles under the weight of his own thoughts? Why do some cavemen out there seem peaceful and present, while this caveman is tortured by invisible enemies inside his own head? And the big question is there a way to stop Caveman's thoughts from destroying him from the inside out? Part 1, the prediction machine. The answer starts with understanding what Caveman's brain was designed to do, predict threats before they happen. Ancient cavemen who could imagine what if a predator hides behind that rock survived longer than cavemen who never worried about anything. So caveman brain evolved into a prediction machine, constantly asking what could go wrong, what danger might be coming, what bad thing might happen next. This system kept cavemen alive. Mental simulation of threats meant cavemen could prepare, avoid, and survive. The problem. Modern caveman still has ancient prediction machine brain. But now the machine runs 24/7 with no off switch. What if I fail? What if they don't like me? What if I said the wrong thing? What if something bad happens? What if I'm not good enough? Caveman's brain generates hundreds of what if scenarios every single day. And here's the cruel trick. Caveman brain can't tell the difference between imagining a threat and experiencing a real threat. Imagining getting rejected. Body responds with real fear. Imagining failure. Body floods with real stress hormones. Caveman suffers from dangers that only exist in his mind. Part 2, the worry paradox. To understand how thoughts create anxiety, scientists studied people with chronic worry. They asked warriors a simple question: why do you worry? The answers were surprising. People said worrying helped them prepare. Worrying kept them safe. Worrying prevented bad things from happening. So scientists tested this belief. They took two groups of people facing the same stressful situation like a job interview. Group 1 told to worry extensively beforehand. Imagine everything that could go wrong. Prepare for disaster. Group 2 told to acknowledge the situation but not dwell on worst-case scenarios. The result. Both groups performed exactly the same in the actual situation. But Group 1, the warriors, suffered for days before the event. They lost sleep. They felt sick. They experienced all the pain of failure before anything even happened. Here's the devastating truth: worry doesn't prevent bad outcomes. It just makes cavemen suffer twice. Once in imagination and once if the bad thing actually happens. And most of the time the imagined disaster never comes. Caveman tortured himself for nothing. Part 3, the thought spiral. Caveman thought his anxious thoughts were trying to help him. But scientists discovered something disturbing about how anxiety actually works in the brain. Anxious thoughts create a spiral. It starts with one small worry. What if I mess up this task? Then caveman's brain grabs that thought and amplifies it. If I mess up, my boss will be disappointed. Then it amplifies again. If my boss is disappointed, I'll get fired again. If I get fired, I'll lose everything again. If I lose everything, I'll end up alone and my life will be ruined. Within 30 seconds, caveman went from I might make a small mistake to my entire life is over. This is called catastrophizing. And every human brain does it because ancient cavemen needed to imagine worst-case scenarios to survive. But here's where modern caveman gets trapped. Each catastrophic thought triggers real fear in the body. Fear makes it hard to think clearly. Unclear thinking generates more anxious thoughts. More anxious thoughts create more fear. The spiral feeds itself. Ancient cavemen could break the spiral by taking action. See the threat. Fight or run. Threat gone. Spiral ends. But modern caveman can't fight his own thoughts. Can't run from his own mind. So the spiral just keeps spinning, getting faster and tighter until caveman feels like he's drowning. Part 4, the thought detox. Caveman decided to try something radical: mental separation. Picture this. Ancient caveman hears a rustling in the bushes. His brain says danger. Caveman investigates. Sometimes it's a predator. Sometimes it's just wind. Caveman learned to check before reacting. Modern caveman hears a thought in his mind. His brain says this is true and important, but caveman never investigates. He just believes it. That's the mistake. Thoughts aren't facts. They're just mental events. The detox works like this. Caveman learns to watch his thoughts like clouds passing through the sky instead of living inside them. There are 2 ways to practice this. Number 1, radical observation. For 10 minutes, caveman sits quietly and just notices his thoughts without judging them. There's a thought about work, there's a worry about tomorrow, there's a memory from yesterday. Not engaging. Not arguing. Not believing. Just watching. After doing this daily, Caveman realizes thoughts come and go automatically. He's not his thoughts. He's the one watching them. Number 2, the label technique. Every time an anxious thought appears, Caveman labels it. That's anxiety talking. That's my prediction machine making up scenarios. That's catastrophizing again. The label creates distance. The thought loses power. Part 5, the evidence system. Caveman knew he couldn't just ignore his thoughts forever. Some thoughts contained real information. So he built a system, treat thoughts like witnesses, not judges. In ancient times, if one tribe member said, "I saw a lion nearby," Caveman didn't automatically panic. He asked questions. Where did you see it? How close was it? Are you sure it was a lion? He gathered evidence before acting. Modern Caveman must do the same with his thoughts. When an anxious thought appears, Caveman asks 3 questions. Question 1, what's the actual evidence for this thought? Not feelings. Not maybes. Actual facts. Question 2, what evidence goes against this thought? What are the times this fear didn't come true? Question 3, what would I tell a friend who had this thought? Usually, Caveman is much kinder and more rational with others than with himself. Example, anxious thought, everyone thinks I'm stupid. Evidence for, I stumbled over my words in the meeting. Evidence against, people still talk to me. I've succeeded at many things. My friend asked for my advice yesterday. Would I tell a friend, one awkward moment doesn't define your intelligence. Everyone stumbles sometimes. The key. Caveman stops accepting thoughts as truth and starts treating them as hypotheses that need testing. Part 6, 5 tricks to defeat anxious thoughts. Now that Caveman understands how thoughts work, he can use clever hacks to stop them from controlling him. Number 1, the 3-3-3 rule. When anxiety spiral starts, Caveman grounds himself in reality. Name 3 things you see. Name 3 things you hear. Move 3 parts of your body. This pulls Caveman out of his head and into the present moment where the imagined threat doesn't exist. Number 2, schedule worry time. Caveman sets aside 15 minutes each day as official worry time. When anxious thoughts appear during the day, he tells his brain not now, we'll worry about that at 4 p.m. Then at 4 p.m. he worries intentionally. Most of the time, the worry seems silly when scheduled. Number 3, the so what technique. Anxious thought appears. Caveman asks so what and follows it to the end. I might fail this project, so what? People will judge me, so what? I'll feel embarrassed, so what? I'll survive and move on. Usually the catastrophe ends with and then I'll handle it. Number 4, thought replacement. Caveman can't stop anxious thoughts by trying not to think them. That makes them stronger. Instead, when anxiety appears, Caveman immediately shifts to a different thought. A memory. A plan. A gratitude. The new thought crowds out the anxious one. Number 5, the usefulness test. When a thought appears, Caveman asks, is this thought useful right now? Not is it true, but is it helping me? If the answer is no, Caveman dismisses it like junk mail. Anxiety thoughts are almost never useful. They're just brain spam. Part 7, the choice of attention. At the end of the day, thoughts aren't the enemy. The prediction machine kept Caveman's ancestors alive. The question is, which thoughts does Caveman pay attention to? Every catastrophic what-if scenario his brain generates, or just the ones based on actual evidence and present reality. Modern Caveman will always have anxious thoughts. The prediction machine will keep running. Worst case scenarios will keep appearing. A caveman gets to choose which thoughts he believes and which ones he lets drift away like smoke. Caveman doesn't need to control his thoughts. He just needs to stop letting his thoughts control him. So the next time Caveman's brain starts screaming about disasters that haven't happened and probably never will, Caveman remembers. It's not about having perfect thoughts. It's about not believing every thought that appears. The only question is, which thoughts will Caveman choose to follow? Caveman says thanks. Smash that like button. Subscribe to the tribe. It keeps the peaceful fires burning.